Welcome. We are so glad you have joined us for Sunday morning worship service. I'm Bob Smallwood, a member of your Board of Trustees. You are here whether you are present in the sanctuary this morning or watching remotely. It is good to be together. We welcome you to our church and invite you to get to know us better after the service. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many paths to truth and meaning, and we support one another in our spiritual and religious journeys while holding ourselves in covenant with one another. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, wherever you are in the world, you are welcome here. We have a number of announcements. Today, as most Sundays, we worship as a multi-generational community. Before we begin, quietly take a moment to be aware of those of us sharing this space. Let us recognize the hearts of our whole community, from our eldest to our youngest and all those in between. Let us embody the beauty of this church community, even when there are a few more wiggles, giggles, and chatter. If you feel a need to move to a quieter or less active space, feel free to do so. No harm, no foul. Let us remind ourselves to listen carefully and calm our minds. Begin by breathing peace and joy into this sacred space. You are surrounded by the love of this community. All and all ages are welcome. Okay, children, listen up. Today, our children have a special children's bulletin just for them. If you didn't get one, please go see an usher at the entrance to the sanctuary. Included in it is a listening game. If you complete it during the service, find Steve Cooper after the service for a special gift. Next Sunday, October 13th, our church will host here a DUUC, a UU choir concert featuring the choirs of our church, led by our choir director, Amanda Thomas, of Second Unitarian of Chicago, led by Carl Kennedy, and the choir of First Unitarian of Chicago, led by Adam Odell. The concert begins at 3:30 p.m. All are welcome to attend. An auction is coming, don't you understand? Congregants, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster indicated by the procrastination in this community. And that starts with P and it rhymes with T, and that means tickets. We don't want a lack of bidders, my friends. So, a friendly reminder from your auction team that tickets for silent and live are available online or with help from the auction team in Creeves Hall. And donations Don't be frittering away your time. Donation submission deadlines are October 20 for live and October 24 for silent items. All information is in the October newsletter and on the church website in the top navigation titled Auction. Check out the catalog of choices so far on the auction site. I forgot. Now, if you are online, I invite you to greet each other through the chat. And if you are present here, I invite you to turn to someone you did not come with and greet them with a wave and a good morning greeting.
I light this chalice for the UU shared value of transformation. We adapt to the changing world. Because we value transformation, we vow to act. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritage, never complete and never perfect.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. Welcome to this place of love, this place of communal flourishing. We gather in this space to open our hearts, to expand our minds, and to see the sacred within each other. Come, let us worship together.
And now, if you will, please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing all together hymn number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
I invite you now to join in the mission statement of our congregation. We gather as an inclusive community to grow in character, mind, and spirit, and to transform the world toward fairness, love, and compassion. Thank you. Today's worship service is the second in our series on our new Unitarian Universalist values, which were voted on by delegates to General Assembly in June 2024. During each month of our program year through next May, we will explore one of our new values or one of the other elements that was changed this past summer. Centered around the word love, the 6 new value words each have a statement of what they mean, which is aspirational and clear, and are followed by a promise, a covenant of action. Rooting ourselves in a theological framework for each of our new values is especially important as we learn to embody and enact them in our world. Last month, we explored our value of interdependence within the theological framework of Ubuntu. I am because we are. This week, we will be exploring the value of transformation in the framework of process theology and Taoism. Between the 2 worship services, all of the learning opportunities for children, youth, and adults will offer space to dig more deeply into our new values together. We will consider what these values mean to us and how we can live them in our world.
Our vision of beloved community is rooted in the relationships that we have with each other, our world, and creation. Each week, we offer the opportunities to share our joys or our concerns here aloud from the pulpit. Today's flowers were given by Susan Camasta in memory of all our church members and friends who have departed this life. And in appreciation for the work the Green Sanctuary is doing to refurbish DUUC's Memorial Garden. With the congregation's help, the Memorial Garden will continue to be a place to sit, rest, and remember. And our Memorial Garden is right next to the building as you leave the sanctuary, so you can see it. It's quite a lovely space. I have a concern from DUUC member Mark Bushman, who shares that he's having surgery this coming Tuesday and would appreciate your thoughts and prayers as he is in the hospital and taken care of by his wife. I would also like to offer to our Jewish members, as well as the Jewish community larger in this world, a happy Rosh Hashanah. And this Jewish high holiday began this past week and has been celebrated through Friday. Yom Kippur will happen next week, and we will actually have a special service on Yom Kippur next Sunday, and I hope you will join us for that. As I often do when we have a member of our community leave our earthly world, I will be lighting a candle today for our member Ellie LaFountain, who passed away this past Friday. It is fitting that our candle for Ellie is lit from our chalice, because even when one moves on from this space, they are forever a part of our community. Tomorrow is the one-year anniversary of the terrorist attacks on the State of Israel by Hamas, and the beginning of the ongoing campaign by Israel on the innocent lives of the Palestinian people in Gaza. The violence continues to expand and escalate. We know that the abuse of power leading to violence includes decades of generational trauma. We know that the abuse of power makes it impossible to consider anyone who is in power innocent. We acknowledge that the only people with a moral high ground are the innocent lives caught in the machinations of power, corruption, unhealed generational trauma, and absolutism. We light a candle to remember all of those killed and displaced, injured, and terrorized by violence. Our meditative prayer today will be a sung response to this anniversary's recognition. Let us hold space in our hearts for the pain and grief of this moment. Let us hold all those in the crossfire and all those who've passed.
It is time to gather And I would like to invite all the young ones, the young at heart, to come forward and join me up here in this gathering space. Morning. So I have a story today. It is from the Sufi tradition, and it's called the stream. A stream, from its beginnings in faraway mountains, passed through a great variety of countryside, and then reached the sands of a vast desert. Since it had crossed every other barrier, it was confident that it could cross the desert. However, no matter how hard it tried, the stream always disappeared into the sand. It was convinced that its destiny was to cross this desert, but could not find a way, and it became upset and frightened. Then it heard a whisper from the desert sand. The wind crosses the desert, and so can the stream. Well, the stream was amazed by the sand's whisper and started to talk. I have been trying as hard as I can, and anyhow, the wind can fly. I'm not the wind. I cannot fly. Of course, hurtling in your accustomed way, you cannot cross. If you keep doing it, you will either disappear or become a marsh. You must allow the wind to carry you over to your destination. But how could this happen? By allowing yourself to be absorbed in the wind. The stream didn't like that idea. It had never been absorbed before and was frightened of losing its identity. And it thought, if I lose my identity, can I get it back again? Or will I be left formless, wandering with the wind forever? Well, the sand, sensing the stream's fears, spoke. This is one of the wind's jobs. It takes up water as vapor and carries it over the desert, and then lets it fall again, falling as rain. The water again becomes a stream. How can I be sure of that? Asked the water. It is so, and if you don't believe it, you cannot become more than a marsh. And even that could take many, many years, and that is certainly not the same as a stream. But I cannot remain the same stream as I am today. You cannot, in either case, remain so, the whisper said. Your essential part is carried away and forms a stream again. Enough though you are called a stream and feel a stream, you do not know which part of you is the essential one. On hearing this vague echo, it began to awake for the stream dim memories of an aspect of streamness being held by the wind. And it thought, maybe this is the real thing to do, though not the obvious thing to do. So with a leap of faith, the stream let go and began to rise as vapor into the welcoming arms of the wind, and being lifted gently upwards and over the desert, and then falling softly as it reached the roof of a mountain many miles away, becoming rain and then a stream again. And the stream was able to remember and record more strongly in his mind the details of the experience, and then reflected, "Now I have learned my true identity." The stream was learning, and the sands whispered, "We know because we see it happen every day, and because we, the sands, extend from the riverside all the way to the mountains. And that is why it is said, the way of the journey of the stream of life is written in the sands." Did you notice that it took more than one thing to cause change? And that is the way it is with people too. You can't just change on your own. It takes the people around you, it takes the things around you to help you change. And sometimes it is about you changing, and sometimes it's about you causing change, or you doing change, or transforming, making change for the better. But you can't do that just with your own thinking. You have to do that with the help of the others around you. Did you pick up the order of service when you came in? So there are some activities in there, and at the end of the service, if you give me the order of service back with all the activities filled out, I have a JetPig bookmark. It has all the values on it and our mission statement to help you remember who we are. All right, you guys can go back to where you were, and let's sing to the children.
Giving of our treasure is how we reciprocate the many gifts that we are given by this community. Your contribution supports the programs and operations of DuPage UU Church. Giving is also how we live our values in the world. Each month, we share our offerings with an organization nominated by the congregation and selected by the special offering team. In the month of November, our shared plate recipient will be We Grow Dreams. We Grow Dreams has been providing job training and employment to young adults with disabilities for over 16 years. We Grow Dreams was founded in 2004 when the founders purchased a greenhouse formerly called We Go Greenhouse. And since then, the greenhouse has provided countless hours of job training and development. This morning's offering to support the work of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church and We Grow Dreams is given and received in a spirit of generosity and gratitude.
please rise once more in body or in spirit and join in singing together the hymn that will come up on the wall in just a moment. Hymn number 317, We Are Not Our Own.
What do you say to a congregation about transformation when that congregation lives and breathes transformation? When the mission statement of that congregation is all about transformation, and when the minister of that congregation has consistently spoken about transformation over and over and over again the past 2 years. Yeah, it was a bit of a difficult week to write a sermon. I've said so much about transformation to you all in the last 2 years, and you all know that transformation is important. You've lived it, you've breathed it, you've embodied transformation. So I puzzled quite a bit, long and hard, on what to say to you all today. So instead I want to focus on the theology undergirding the concept of transformation. One of my biggest critiques of our previous 7 principles is that there was no theological framework for them. As we explore our new values, it's my goal to put forth a theological framework for consideration for each of our principles. Last month, we spoke about interdependence. I spoke on the South African concept of Ubuntu. I am because we are. When I think about transformation, there are 2 theological frameworks that come to mind, and the first is my own Taoist understanding, the idea that change is all around us, and not change just for change's sake, but change that is transformation and always becoming. The second theological framework is a Christian one that was heavily influenced by Eastern religions, including Taoism and Confucianism. It is process theology. Now, my favorite process theologian is Catherine Keller, who I actually can call friend. She was my partner's colleague at Drew University Theological School. In her book, On the Mystery, she writes, process theology is grounded in the cosmology of Alfred North Whitehead, the early 20th century mathematician who became a philosopher in order to connect the radical insights of Einstein's relativity theory and quantum indeterminacy to our living sense of value. He announced that the primary task of philosophy must be the reconciliation of religion and science. His elaborate rethinking of the universe as one immense, living, and open-ended network of spontaneous interactions inspired the movement called process theology. Process theology states that the living world around us, all that science tells us of us and our planet, is change. Process theology tells us that if this is the truth of creation, then that truth must also apply to that which is sacred, the religious realm. That it too must change. Now, this is drastically different of an undertaking for theology, or as Catherine Keller likes to call theology, God talk. Religion, for millennia, has been immutable, unchangeable in how it describes God and truth and the only way to salvation. So you can imagine when Whitehead first hypothesized that God, or as he would phrase it, the primordial nature he described as the unlimited conceptual realization of the absolute wealth of potentiality, totally a philosopher there, Whitehead ripped apart the fabric of the traditional concept of God as omnipotent and omniscient and never changing. God is change. That is how Whitehead rooted his own research and understanding of, and he used Chinese philosophies, including Taoism, to create this concept of God as change. And it is one that has transcended all of theology, but popular fiction as well. Have any of you read Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower? Yeah. If you haven't, do so, especially because it was set in the year 2024. She was an Afrofuturist science fiction dystopian writer who wrote this novel, and the main character describes God as change. Process theology transformed the theological world with the understanding of who and what the divine might look like. Process theology is rooted in change and transformation. But at its core, that change and transformation is done in relationship. Catherine Keller writes, "For process theologians, God, at once eternal and becoming, is a living process of interaction. Like quantum theory, process theology recognizes that the observer participates in that which they observe. Any theological standpoint outside the process of the universe would be a fallacy of misplaced concreteness. To discern God in process means to discern at the same time our own participation in that process. Our participation as social individuals, that is, as individuals who participate in one another and in God." Now, you might not believe in God as the anthropomorphic being, the mythical white bearded man in the sky, and both of those things are okay. Process theology, however, is telling us that however you describe God, whether it's love, community, or that being in the sky, God is in relationship to you, changing you as you change God. As you change and shape the world around you changes you. You can see in this concept of shaping and changing the world, Whitehead's definition of God as an absolute wealth of potentiality. Process theology holds a framework for the Unitarian Universalist value of transformation, but it also holds the framework for some of our other new values as well. If transformation happens in relationship, then we must recognize our interdependence. Without you, I cannot become what transformation might bring me, and you cannot become what transformation might bring you without me. But it also teaches us that our value of pluralism is part and parcel of our being in relationship. Now, if you've known me as your minister now for 2 years, we're going on our 3rd year together, you know that in my mind, everything's linked up. So talking about just one of our values is almost impossible for me. So today we're also going to talk about pluralism. Pluralism, the concept of many beliefs living in harmony, is one of our new UU values. Integral to our being in relationship is how we navigate our differences, especially the differences that make up the core of our identities. Process theology teaches us that transformation happens in relationship to others, and not just the others who believe like us, but all others. And so my sermon today on transformation is also a sermon on pluralism, because in this moment, recognizing the need to transform our world into a peaceful place that centers the flourishing of others is going to require that we are able to be in relationship with others so that are very different from ourselves. This is the essence of pluralism, both religiously and politically. Unitarian Universalism began this journey decades ago, though we certainly haven't perfected it. After all, many of our congregations still choose to identify as a particular religion or philosophy rather than centering on our Unitarian Universalist values. We also have a tendency to ignore each other's beliefs individually rather than engaging in pluralism through dialogue, and thus move towards transformation. This refusal to have conversations about our beliefs while in community is actually a cause for concern as I think about the value of transformation. I've mentioned that I love our new values, that our new values include a covenant or a moment of action. But as our staff met this week, Steve Cooper, our Director of Religious Education, mentioned that the covenant for transformation is the least active and participatory of all of our new 6 covenants. If we're going to transform ourselves and our world, we cannot do it just because it happens to us, reluctantly maybe. We must choose actively to participate in change because we believe in transformation and how it will bring about a better world. So when I look at process theology as the framework for transformation, what I look at is a concept that allows us to grasp different truths and hold them together, pluralism, so that we might transform ourselves and the world. And I don't need to preach this to you, because you all understand the importance of transformation. You get it. You come here because you wish to become all of what is possible within yourselves and as a community. This church's mission statement is all about the embodiment of this value. But I think that sometimes we forget that we do our best and most worthy transformation when we are in relationship, when we choose to be together and we dialogue with each other and those who are different from us, politically or religiously, or even when we just simply have different goals or needs in our congregations. We need to talk to each other about our differences. Because when we hash out those differences, we can't help but be transformed, and the ripples of that transformation resound far and wide. Which leads me to a thought that I have been returning to again and again after our leadership here at the church met in the fall of 2022, around a conversation on size dynamics in churches. Our member here, Neil Lickman, asked during that meeting what Unitarian Universalists' claim to fame is now that every other Protestant Christian church has the same position on most social issues. We are not the only liberal tradition out there. What makes us different now that that is the case? I believe and I've heard from many of you leaders as well, that pluralism should be our claim to fame, that which sets us apart. Because there is no other faith tradition that welcomes multiple perspectives and beliefs. We are the only one. Every other tradition requires that you have to believe something specific. We do not. We do this well, but we could do it better. And I return to that because the lessons of pluralism, of being in dialogue, despite and in not only despite, but because of our differences, actually is a model for what we wish to see in the world. In a moment such as this, prior to an election that is so contentious, that is dividing our country, that is leaving many of us feeling helpless, I wonder how centering relationship in our dialogue of difference might bring the transformation we wish to see in the world. Pluralism, the focus of relationship over ideology, as the way for us to co-create through transformation what we wish to see in the world. Catherine Keller writes, "Process theology has shown that we do not exist outside of our relationships. We become who we are only in relation. We are network creatures." And then she asks, but how often do our relationships radiate the unexpected honesty of well-sided dialogue? This quote hit me especially hard this week as we recognize the one-year anniversary of the Hamas attacks on Israel and the ongoing annihilation of the Palestinian people in Gaza. As the war continues to grow and kill more and more innocent lives, what would be transformed in the unexpected honesty of well-sided dialogue? What would our political climate look like in the unexpected honesty of well-sided dialogue? When I consider transformation through the lens of process theology, I begin to look at my relationships. If I wish to transform into all of my potentiality, into my limitless possibilities, if I wish to transform the world into all it can possibly be, process theology tells me to pay attention to my relations, to those I walk this journey with, people, animals, nature, those who I disagree with, and what I qualify as the divine. I will change with them to become something even more. In fact, even the divine changes with me. A living, breathing reflection of a world in flux, a world changing, a world seeking transformation. So what unexpected, honest dialogue will you engage in this week?
Please rise.
For our benediction today, I would like you to recite with me the words of our UU value on transformation. As Unitarian Universalists, we share the value of transformation. Because we value transformation, we vow to act. Thus, we covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect.
And now, please join me in extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish the light of this chalice, but not the light in our hearts. Until we meet again, may the warmth of our community carry you.